right, guys. A whole lot of things have happened this week. Primarily an election where Democrats won quite a few seats. New York has elected a self-proclaimed Democratic Socialist, which I'm sure will end well for New York. But what I really want to get into today is the election of Jay Jones. He was elected the Attorney General of Virginia. Now, this isn't a celebration of victory for Mr. Jones. It's a moment of deep concern because this man, now holding on to one of the most powerful legal positions in that entire state, once said that he would put two bullets in the head of a GOP candidate if he was in the same room with them. He even said that he wished that the children of this very same political candidate would be murdered so that they would change their political opinions to match his. This is the very kind of rhetoric that doesn't just divide us, it dehumanizes us. According to many sources, including Politico, which I'll link down in the description, Jay Jones wrote, and I quote, three people, two bullets, Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets two bullets to the back of the head. He was referring to Todd Gilbert, who was then the Republican Speaker of the House in Virginia. I just want you guys to take a moment and think about this. If he had two of the worst men in history in the same room with Gilbert, he would choose to murder Gilbert. Then, in a phone call later on, Jones went even further. He invoked the death of Gilbert's children as a hypothetical way of changing Gilbert's political opinions. This isn't satire. This isn't a meme. This is the new reality of American politics. And it's fueled by something far more dangerous than anger and ideology. It's fueled by dehumanization. I'll go ahead and take a moment here to let you guys watch a news clip from back when this happened.
Politics. Democratic Attorney General nominee Jay Jones reportedly sent these threatening text messages back in 2022, calling for violence against a former Virginia GOP speaker. Thank you for staying up with us on this Friday night. I'm Lorenzo Hall.
And I'm Leslie Foster. Our Katie Lesso breaks down what those texts from 2022 said, the growing political fallout, and why Jones says he is not backing out of the race.
Both Democrats and Republicans quickly condemned the text that Jay Jones sent in 2022, a choice he says he is embarrassed, ashamed, and sorry for. These are the texts Delegate Carrie Coiner says she received from Jay Jones, the Democratic nominee for Attorney General in Virginia. Three people, two bullets, one text reads. Gilbert gets two bullets to the head, Jones wrote, referring to House Speaker Todd Gilbert. Coiner replied, please stop. In a statement to WUSA 9 Friday afternoon, Coiner called the text, quote, disqualifying, disgusting, and unbecoming of any public official. Her office says she shared the screenshots with Gilbert at the time to alert him to the threats and is only releasing them publicly now because the National Review had reached out to her for comment on them. Jones responded Friday, taking full accountability for his words and saying he reached out to Gilbert and his family to apologize. Reactions pouring in on both sides of the aisle. Democratic governor candidate Abigail Spanberger said she spoke directly with Jones about her, quote, disgust with what he said and texted. She added she told him he must fully accept responsibility for his words. Her Republican opponent also criticizing the text.
We don't need any more divisiveness in politics. We need leaders who care. We need leaders who will bring people together, and Abigail Spanberger is not going to do that. So really, if she's asking Jay Jones to resign from nomination, which is what I would say, then she should resign as well.
I was going to say he didn't resign. Do you think he should?
Yes, Abigail Spanberger, ask her, does she think that it is fitting for the nominee on her side of the aisle to do what? To say that it's okay to murder? To murder? Do you know he's an officer of the court?
And Jones's statement indicated that he has no plans to step away from the race, writing in that statement that he plans to continue fighting for the people of Virginia as the next Attorney General. In Fairfax, I'm Katie Lasso, WUSA 9.
Tonight.
Dehumanization happens when other people stop seeing their peers as human beings and start seeing them as enemies or obstacles or less than them. It's what allows someone to say, well, I would shoot them if I could. It's what makes political opponents sound like monsters, not neighbors. And once that line's crossed, empathy starts to fade. We stop asking why someone believes differently and start assuming that they're irredeemable, dangerous, or even evil. It's easier to hate an idea when it wears a human's face, but it's far harder when you remember that person has a family, fears, and hopes just like you. Over the last decade, this kind of language has only grown louder, not just from fringe activists on social media, but from people in power. When leaders use violent imagery or speak as if their rivals are enemies of the people, then it sends a message, a very clear one, that dehumanization is acceptable. And once permission is given, it spreads. Supporters echo the same words. Anger hardens into conviction. Conviction turns into justification. And history shows what happens next. Words become actions. And those actions, once unleashed, are also impossible to control. We've already seen the cost of this dehumanization and rhetoric. Um, Charlie Kirk was a conservative activist who was assassinated recently. Whether you agree with his politics or not, that's the kind of violence that should terrify America. Because once political murder has been normalized, once the line between argument and enemy combatant is blurred, then democracy itself begins to fracture. On the screen is an article from the New York Post showing Aaron Danielson in Portland. He's also known as Jay Bishop. He was murdered by Michael Reinhold, a man who described himself as a 100% Antifa. Reinhold said, and I quote, "I will fight for my brothers, and there will be many casualties." That's not political disagreement, it's ideological warfare. That's what happens when people are taught to see each other not as Americans with different opinions, but as threats that must be eliminated. On screen, you'll see a tweet from Andy Ngo about Derek Rice. Derek was a Republican Trump supporter and was shot in Portland, Oregon. Now, we don't know yet if this is politically motivated, but when these sort of stories keep happening, then the assumption becomes inevitable that politics played a role. Because that's what dehumanization does. It poisons how we interpret everything. It turns coincidence into conspiracy, it turns tragedy into tribal victory, and it rewires empathy into suspicion and doubt into hatred. Once we stop seeing people as human, every event becomes proof of what we already want to believe. And every loss for a them starts to feel like a win for an us. This is why leadership matters and words matter. When elected officials like Jay Jones speak with violent contempt, it's not just reckless, it's dangerous. Because when people with power talk this way, they don't just reflect division, they amplify it. They give permission for hate to grow louder. They teach others that cruelty is strength, and rage is righteousness, and that empathy is weakness. It sends a message to millions that hatred is justified, that violence is acceptable, and that the other side deserves whatever happens to them. Virginia, shame on you for electing this man. We should demand better from our representatives, no matter what their party or no matter what our politics. Because democracy only survives when decency does. Once leaders start talking like extremists, then the extremists stop whispering and start running for office. And when they win, the line between leadership and lunacy disappears. If this continues, political violence will only escalate. And it won't stop with politicians or activists. It'll come to ordinary people like me and you. We'll be caught in the crossfire. We need to tone down the rhetoric, and we need to hold our representatives on both sides to a higher standard of professionalism, respect, and restraint. In one of my previous videos, I stated that we had lost professionalism in our leaders, and this situation just proves it. But it also proves something else, that we, the people, still have power to demand better. We can reject dehumanization, and we can stop rewarding outrage. We can start rebuilding political culture that values human life and our political points. If you would like to dive deeper in how division, outrage, and political manipulation is tearing America apart, please buy my book on Amazon. It's called The Fracture: How Political Division is Tearing America Apart. Link is in the description below. If you found this video important, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement really helps spread this message to more people who need to hear it. Until the next time, stay thoughtful, stay civil, and remember that disagreement isn't the enemy. Dehumanization is.